Welcome to Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession. I'm Will Hubner here with Mark Mashashik. We are two doctors of physical therapy, and we are here to answer your PT questions as well as give our take on current sporting events from a health perspective. As always, send your questions to willandmarkshso@gmail.com, and we will answer them on the show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Will Hubner here with Mark Mashashik. Today we're going to be talking about the MLB trade deadlines, early training camp injuries from the NFL, and we're going to go over AFC West predictions and give our take on fantasy value. So starting off with the MLB trade deadline, big news coming with Marcus Stroman's going to the Mets.
Yeah, so what are we doing here? We're hearing that the Mets are sellers, and all of a sudden they're wheeling and dealing to bring Stroman. What's your? Is this a Bradley Beal issue? Are we gonna chastise the Mets, saying like you should be selling and you're buying? What's your take on it, Will?
It's interesting. So when you think about the Mets, the big talk is Noah Syndergaard going to be on the move, or the Mets going to get a big package for him, or is he going to stay put? So then hearing about, I think most people were thinking the Mets are sellers. So hearing them get Stroman and Ace is kind of
surprised us.
Very surprising. Looking into it, so they gave up their fourth and sixth best prospects on what most people consider the Mets don't have a strong minor league roster. They don't have a strong
right.
So going to that, you're getting an ace for a fourth and sixth.
They just saw value and said it's a good deal.
I saw stats since 2003, only 20% of prospects that were traded at the trade deadline, only 20% played more than 2 years and had a positive wins against replacement.
Yeah, I mean, it's always better to get value unless you know you're just going to be losing the guy anyway. But I guess they're saying, well, maybe we'll still flip Thor here, and we'll have Stroman, and we're ready to play ball next year. We're not in rebuild mode. We're just being smart for next year. It's an interesting. You don't see a lot of this. I can't remember Do you remember the last time a team kind of was ready to tank, but still was wheeling and dealing for a big name at the deadline? I can't remember that. It's interesting. I want to see how it plays out. Yeah, I think they have a lot of young guys, right? They got Conforto and McNeil, even J.D. Davis. So they have some players that can play. Not to mention Alonso, the polar bear.
Right, Alonso, and Cano, they're hoping to still get value at him. So if they get Stroman, get their ace, they still have DeGrom, and then they get a package for Syndergaard, they could be.
Would you rather have Syndergaard or Stroman?
I would rather have Stroman.
I think I'd still rather have Syndergaard. I know Stroman's been better this year, but
Stroman has, I think, like the third lowest ERA in all of the American League, and he plays in the AL East, which is a monster.
Right.
Teams mash in the AL East. Even the Orioles mash.
Yeah, you look at the careers, though. I mean, Thor's been a stud. Okay, you're selling me a little bit. If you're getting him at better value and you can still trade him, you can sell me on it.
Yeah, and Syndergaard, he's having a down year, so if you can get a good package for him this year, I think he's got like mid-4s ERA.
Right.
Slightly above 500 winning percentage. I say go for it. I think the Mets could be onto something with this trade. Okay. But it makes no sense if they stick with Syndergaard, and I think they're making a mistake. I think they need to trade him and get good value for him.
I mean, they can't make a push right now, right? The Mets are out. The Mets. I can't imagine the Mets doing the right thing. Is my only hang up on this is like the Mets. They always do the wrong thing. They give all their money to Bernie Madoff.
I think it's just New York in general. You got the Mets and the Knicks just can't seem to do anything right.
And the Jets too. It's all
the Jets.
What is it? What do the three have in common? Terrible ownership.
Yeah,
just really bad ownership ruins teams. It makes it hard to stay a fan. I'm sorry, Mets fans. It's just hard. I want to root for the Mets. I hate the Yankees. I like the Mets. I want to root for them. It's hard to do, and ugh.
Well, let's talk about the Yankees. So they're leading their division by 8.5 games.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. So right now the Red Sox are in actually third place, half game behind Tampa Bay Rays.
Right.
Red Sox usually make a push at the end. 8.5 games. I think Yankees are going to win that division, but I don't think anybody would be super surprised if the Red Sox made a push and made that division close.
I'm not I'm not overly afraid of the Yankees right now. I think if you look at the Yankees and the Red Sox, I know the Yankees got more wins, but I think right now they're apples and oranges. I think we've got similar talent on both teams. So it's going to be a fun playoffs.
So do you think the Red Sox make playoffs?
I do.
And you think the Yankees make playoffs?
I do.
Where does that leave the Rays? They getting that second wild card?
Who else?
So right now, the leaders of the AL, or the season ended today, leaders of the AL are going to be in the wild card.
Yeah,
Cleveland Indians, Oakland Athletics.
That's true. So I'm looking at it now. I think that the Sox will eke out the Rays, and we'll see the other wild card. I mean, Indians Athletics. I'd like to see I hope the Athletics can make a move, get a starting pitcher, and eke out the Indians. That'd be fun to see.
I think the Indians have a ton of talent. I mean, they're 19 games over 500.
Their pitchers are throwing balls out through center field right now, though. They're off the rails.
That was impressive. If you haven't seen, was it Trevor Bauer?
Yeah.
Gets taken out of a game, gets upset, turns around, wheels it from the end,
chucks it over the center field wall. Yeah. Pretty fun to see.
Incredible. It's like that Michael Vick commercial where he's just throwing it out of the stadium.
The old Powerade commercials. First he's throwing at receivers and he's just knocking them down. Those old Powerade commercials are the best. If you want to see the greatest commercial ever, do Powerade Bridge, where they're doing the weather helicopter, and all of a sudden they see someone running up a bridge that's opening for a ship to come, and then she jumps.
Did you ever see that the Saturday Night Live skit with Peyton Manning, and he's throwing these footballs to these little kids? He's like yelling at them, saying like, "Come on, catch the ball! Get your head out of your ass," things like that. And I guess he felt like very uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And then one of the parents said, "Hey, I want you to hit my kid in the face. I want him to get some screen time." And at that point, he's like, "All right, I'll do it." Pretty funny skit. So, all right, going back to it. So we're thinking Indians or Athletics, and the Red Sox get the 2 wild cards.
That's my bet.
All right, how about in the NL? Right now you got the Braves leading the Nats by 5.5 games. The Cubs and Cardinals are actually tied for first place, and they have the Brewers only a game out from there, so that division's should be fun down the stretch. And then the Dodgers are up by 14.5 games.
Yep, so Dodgers and Braves are a lock. I think the Nats are going to get in there, so that's a dogfight in the Central. I'll say Cardinals and Cubs. Cubs win the division. Cardinals and Nats get the wild cards.
Okay, so that leaves the Phillies and Brewers left out.
Yep.
Now, can either of those teams add some pieces? Can the Phillies get someone to push them ahead of the Nats?
Right. I mean, they can. I think at this point they've got good years coming. I don't think they want to sell their farm right now. I think they want to stay pat.
So we're talking about the Nationals getting in.
They've got to add bullpen, obviously.
Arguably the worst bullpen in the major leagues.
Scherzer's got to get healthy.
Scherzer's got to get healthy. Can they add a couple relievers? They got Doolittle's been consistent.
Yep.
But if they could add 1-2 more relievers, right. I think they're sitting pretty and actually have a chance to contend for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because when you get down to the playoffs, I mean, you got Scherzer, Strasburg, and Corbin.
That's nasty.
Right, you're not using 5 starters in the playoffs. You're using 3, sometimes 4 if you have to. But
there's this whole other playoff thing that I think maybe my Sox started it, where you're just like you're having a guy go 4 innings, and you're kind of getting guys to pitch. The starters aren't like it used to be 9 innings pitched, 4 days rest, pitch them again. They're kind of trying to string them out a little bit. It's a very different strategy that was effective last year and a little bit the year before. I think that's what I think we could see a lot of that again in the playoffs. Guys pitching earlier, but lower pitch counts when they come, or bringing Scherzer in. It's game 6 and you got to get the win. You bring Scherzer in it's tied. You bring Scherzer in the 6th or 7th.
Well, that backfired 2 or 3 years ago when they're playing. I think 2 years ago when they're playing the Dodgers, and it was a game 5 deciding game. And it was in, I think it was in Washington. And they bring in Scherzer.
Right.
And he ends up giving up the lead. Yeah.
I still think if you're playing the odds, you still do it every time.
Right. You got to bring in your best player.
Yeah.
I know a lot of fans were upset by that. Oh, how could you possibly? I mean, come on.
Scherzer,
He's your best
he's
player.
A monster.
Best player in MLB.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Okay. Yeah. But the trend has been, if you're going 4 innings, the bullpens are stacked. Teams that do really well have player after player they can put in, like the Yankees, for example. they're lacking in starting pitching.
Right.
I actually heard that unless they can get somebody for a good value at a starting pitcher, they're going to beef up their bullpen even more, which is already
Clint
good.
Frazier is a little disgruntled. I heard he could be on the move.
Yeah. So if they can get another bullpen piece, I mean, you're turning these games into 5 innings, and you're just putting in knockout guys for your last 4 innings.
I like it.
Yeah, why not?
Pitching wins.
Right. And then, are the Orioles buyers or sellers, you think?
The Orioles are irrelevant. They're less relevant than the damn Mets.
They're only, what,
Poor
30,
Orioles.
30 games out?
30 games back. Next year.
Always next year. They're interesting facts. So the Tigers are the worst team in baseball right now with 30 wins. Run differential of minus 211. And then after that, you got the Orioles at 35 wins with a run differential of minus 177. So,
not good.
it's always next year.
Bad baseball.
All right, so let's go. Training camp started.
Yep.
Talking NFL now. So, big news, AJ Green expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks with what they're saying are torn ligaments, multiple torn ligaments in his ankle.
Ankle sprain.
What do you think? Are you concerned about this?
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we look at AJ's history. He was already a guy that going into the season, we were saying, like, are we talking football or fantasy? Well, either way, I guess. We're going into the season, if I'm looking at it from a fantasy standpoint, like, do I want to draft him? He hasn't been healthy the past couple of years, and he starts off the season with an injury. I'd be very concerned. He's also a guy where, it doesn't speak to the player himself, but, like, when he gets injured, that hamstring he had a couple of years ago, like, and he's had the toe over the past 2 years, things seem to linger on him. I'm very nervous about AJ Green. It stinks. It's just it's not fun. It's not fun for the Bengals. It's tough being a Bengals fan too. But if we get a little PT take on that, how do you feel about ankle sprains in general? If you got an ankle sprain, what do you say? Give him the 6 to 8 weeks. Are you from a treatment standpoint? Are you a tape it up guy, or are you a stabilized guy? What do you recommend for ankle sprains?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have ankle sprains and injuries like that, you definitely don't want them before the season starts.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're midway through the season, do what you got to do to get through it.
Sure.
In a sense, I guess now's the time. I would think he's already doing a ton of balance and stabilization activities anyway. But yeah, I mean, we both had it in terms of, the Bengals. We both predicted them to be 5-11 in a couple podcasts ago.
Yeah.
That was with a healthy AJ Green from what we were assuming. So I don't think the Bengals are going to be in very good shape. But in terms of the ankle, I mean, he's going to be taped up. He's going to get out there as quickly as he can.
Do you think tape is a effective method? It's sort of like a crutch. Like, do you want your athletes all taped up? Sometimes I feel like let's get this, let's get the calcaneus moving, let's get the talus on track, and let's just do mobilization and motor control forever. But at some point, if he's got instability in the ligaments, I guess you do just got to crutch it. Yeah. Same idea. Do we give the patient the orthotics, or we say no? Let's get the foot really mobile and get it to control itself.
Yeah, but that's the idea of if you're doing rehab, like, I'm not going to tape him up and then put him on a balance board.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right? Yeah. But if I know he's going to be out there cutting as hard as he can, doing everything he can to win a game, why not have a little bit extra stability just to protect a little bit more? And does it protect it? I'd like to think maybe it does, but even mentally, there's a huge component in terms of, what do we hear from Todd Gurley? Just came out in the press and saying the media's putting bad energy into my knee.
I'm with him on that. I'm all about karma.
There's 100% this mental idea. If you think you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. So if I put a piece of tape on you and now you think that there's less chance of you getting hurt and you're not going to think about it as much, why not do that?
The placebo is strong, yes.
Definitely.
I think it's an interesting time to bring up meat versus price, too. The old style of how we manage ankle sprains was always rest, ice, compression, elevation, and protection. I think there's something to getting in there and mobilizing these ankles early. If the talus is off track, it's not going to help his motor control. So meat is mobilize, exercise, activity, and treatment. So getting in, working with the ankle, mobilizing it, soft tissue work to get all the inflammation out, get new blood and good juices flowing in. I'm not saying throw out the ice and everything right now either. I think you have to have the right healthy state of inflammation in there so that the ankle can heal and come back faster. But I'm a big proponent of mobilizing ankle sprains easy. I don't think it's good to have, I don't know what the usually a lateral ankle sprain. Talus has moved lateral. I don't think it's good to leave it in that position for a long period of time. Ankle sprains for me with athletes, get in there early, start mobilizing, do soft tissue, let's work on motor control, and then manage inflammation as well.
Definitely. And the most common ligament that's injured in ankle sprain is your ATFL, right? Your anterior talofibular ligament. So that ligament is so strong that most of the time you're not going to tear that ligament. Like when you have an ankle sprain, the ligament itself isn't tearing. It becomes lax, they call it, or loose.
Right.
But it's so strong that oftentimes it's not going to tear, and it attaches to the smaller bone in your ankle, the fibula, and it'll actually pull that forward and medial. Right? So anterior medial. So one of the most important mobilizations, like I have somebody that comes in with an ankle sprain, it's swollen, they're in a lot of pain. Definitely mobilize that. You want to mobilize that smaller bone, the fibula. You want to get it posterior and superior, and then motor control it, right?
Right.
So,
and I'm seeing it a lot on sports sidelines now more, as opposed to just like bracing things. I remember I saw LeBron sprain this year, and he was on the sideline, and he was actually he was with a TheraBand doing active eversion. It was just working on, okay, let's disinhibit this dysfunction. It was with a bad ankle sprain he had too. He was on the sideline immediately, working on active eversion to try to get that to disinhibit, to get it to come back.
Right, and I'm sure he's not thinking of that.
But I'm sure his PT's right there, like, LeBron, do this now. We got to get it moving anyway. But just I think it's interesting, as from a physical therapy podcast, to say that there is a little bit of change in the idea of how we treat your standard ankle sprain right now. If you're someone who sprains your ankle and says, hey, if you're a young athlete and say, well, I'm going to have to rest it for 6 weeks and then I'll get into PT, that's not always the case. We love to see you the day you sprain, the day after. It's not always easy to get in that early, but there is an active component where you can start setting yourself up for success at 6 and 8 weeks when you're ready to return. So AJ, get in and get treatment. I'm sure he's getting great treatment.
Right. And we're definitely not saying that the Rice model's bad.
No,
you're still mobilizing early. You're still going to be icing it. You're still going to be decreasing inflammation. You're still going to be elevating. You're still going to be doing all those things.
If there is excessive inflammation,
right,
which in a traumatic injury like this we expect that, but if there isn't a lot of excessive inflammation and you're clearing with the soft tissue, how much value is the ice? I don't know. I'm a little on the anti-ice side if there's not excessive inflammation, if there isn't something that we need to remove there. Get it moving. Let's get it healing. Good stagnant blood out, good blood in, get you healing. So what does this mean for the Bengals now? Do you think the Bengals, 5-11, we were already saying they're in trouble. They just lost now they lose their best player. They've had an offensive guard retire. They lost their first round pick.
Yeah, it's Andy Dalton's last season. That's all I can say.
Andy Dalton's last season. What about from a fantasy perspective?
Right. So the guys you want to own would be Tyler Boyd, right? He's going to take an increase in targets. He had a pretty good season last year. I think AJ missed like 9 games last year.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd was pretty serviceable.
Very beyond serviceable.
Yeah, I think he's like a top 10 receiver.
Oh, yeah, he just got paid, too. They upped his contract. I think he's up around $10 million a year now. Interesting, though, if you do look at the game logs, he actually played really well with AJ out there, too. I would say he still tends to benefit probably the most from this, just knowing the target share is going to go up. I think I was about to say that I think John Ross actually might have an opportunity to step in here and maybe take a step forward. And then I just checked my phone and he pulled his hammy today, so he's managing a hammy right now. Definitely Tyler Eifert is a better option as a last second tight end to pick if you miss everyone else. We don't really expect Eifert to stay healthy, but if you get no AJ Green and he's getting all the red zone looks for the first couple of weeks of the season, if I'm drafting him late anyway, fine, I'll take him until something goes wrong and then I've got someone off waivers. Yeah. So it does open up a lot of options for fantasy. And you say he's going to be back in 8 weeks anyway, fine. Or maybe this does linger. Or you got to win the first 4 weeks of the season. Don't worry about the playoffs. You can find guys throughout the year. Just get to the playoffs first. Win early. Win.
Yeah. I think, honestly, if you have, like you're saying, you have maybe AJ Green at 75, 80%, right? And then you own Tyler Boyd. That's perfect, right? So now you got the top corner covering AJ Green, who's probably not going to be that open. He's a huge target. I mean, he's a great player. But Tyler Boyd's now going to benefit from taking on the lesser coverage. And yeah. And also, we both love Joe Mixon. For me, it's just solidifying, got to get Joe Mixon. If you can get him at good value, get Joe Mixon.
I love Mixon. I'm still... I was so bullish on him, and now my withdrawal is some of the offensive line concerns. And no AJ does that stack the box a little more against him. So you could say it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, but your PPR is going to get more catches. I don't know.
His catch share has to go somewhere. We don't know. Maybe this is a nothing, and he'll be back. They're saying 6 weeks. The season is 5 weeks away, so maybe he accelerates and is ready. I don't want the risk. I probably will not own AJ Green in any fantasy team this year. I mean, he'll fall to a value at some point, but he was already going third round. I'm probably not taking him in fourth round right now. I guess if he fell to fifth, that's where I start to consider him, but I don't think people are going to let him fall that far to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what are we talking about? So, been a lot of thumb injuries, right?
It's the injury of the year. We've got RG3 with a fracture. My guy Julian Edelman had a fracture, and Shepard in New York. New York. What's new? Who's going to play wide receiver in New York this year?
Right. So Coleman tore his ACL.
He wasn't going to play anyway, but sure. But
he was not going to play. They don't have anybody.
Corey Coleman? He's never played before. He's terrible.
That's all they got. Golden Tate suspended for fertility drug, male fertility drug.
Right, that's a bummer.
Which it turns out he took it, realized that there was ingredients that were on the list.
Yeah.
Told the NFL about it, told his coach about it. He said, I'm going to test positive for this thing. Immediately I stopped taking it. And then they got it, and they still got 4 games. So he's appealing it.
Who's taking fertility drugs and not, going over it with the training staff? Fertility drugs clearly affect your hormonal levels. I don't know. I got to put that one on him. How do you not? I don't understand. If I'm going to take a fertility drug and I have to do a performance drug test, I think I'm going to ask, my team physician, does this... It just seems like a no-brainer to me. It's affecting his hormone levels.
Yeah. So he's out 4 games.
So I think we see week 1, we probably see Plaxico Burress, maybe Amani Toomer.
Yeah.
Bring him back. I mean, that's all there is, right?
And then it's Saquon. I mean,
yeah.
Saquon is going to be doing everything.
He's going to have 8 in the box against him, but in Peterson's the first big season Peterson had with Christian Ponder, he had 9 in the box against him, and it didn't matter. I think Saquon's probably on that level. I'm worrying enough a little bit where I'm putting Kamara above Saquon right now, but I'm not that worried.
So we pulled up an interesting article. So it's going over the NFL injuries each year by every team over the last 4 years. So 2015, 16, 17, 18. So for a 4-year total, the most injured team in the NFL is the New Orleans Saints.
Bummer.
Followed by the Redskins, Jets.
Jets seem to always be hurt, yeah.
And then there's a little bit of a fall off, and it goes to the.
So who are least hurt? What do we got for least hurt?
Least hurt. So Minnesota Vikings, least injured by far. Then you got the Falcons, Rams, Chargers.
So is this all luck? I mean, we're literally looking at New Orleans Saints. Is that double the injuries that the Minnesota Vikings have had over the past 4 years?
Looks like more, yeah.
So what's your rhyme or reason to it? Will any thought?
I have no ideas. I mean, the Falcons are playing on turf, right?
Ooh, playing surface. Tell me more about that. How can playing surface affect risk of injuries?
Well, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of maintenance that goes on. I actually recently went to this conference, and this one person was talking about all the different turf conditions and fields that they're doing.
Who was it?
Who was the person talking?
Yeah. Don't recall. That's okay.
I don't recall.
Give us the info anyway.
But anyways, different playing surfaces have different effects on injuries, and particularly the way that cleats kind of go into the injury. So you know the turf fields where you get those little black pebbles that come out all the time?
Yes.
So that's not great, right? Because most players or most teams, if you're not resurfacing all those little pebbles, right? If you're not evening it out, there's going to be small differences in the depth of the turf, which can create some ankle instability. So there's a ton of maintenance that goes into turf fields and different.
What's the best? Any breakdown of the best surface to play on versus the worst surface to play on?
I think what you want, ideally, you kind of want to go back to
grass.
Yeah. Just regular, old fashioned, like
what
the Oakland Raiders. Right?
If you get a patient who has
Raiders on here.
If you get a patient who has pain with running, what's like the first? And they got to run. What's the first thing you tell them to do? Go run on grass. It's just like naturally very cushioning.
Surface. But having said that, if you have kind of a grass, more natural surface, that can get really hard. Turf can actually be a little bit softer surface than like the dirt and like grass that like the Raiders are playing on, right?
Yeah.
So it's all, I don't know. I know.
I wonder how they're reporting injuries too. Maybe like the New Orleans Saints are just more liberal in reporting injuries as opposed to the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe there's something up in that Minneapolis water. Maybe it's
it's cold in Minnesota.
Maybe it's just having the Viking bloodline. They're just naturally tougher.
You've got the Minnesota Vikings, which is like always see snowy games in Minnesota.
Well, they play inside. No, well, now they play inside. So this would be split. So we got 2015, 2016. Those ones, there's less injuries. Those would be the outdoor games. I think it's the last 2 years they moved inside.
And
That's
they have
interesting.
More injuries, those two, yeah.
Saints play inside. Skins play outside. So I don't know if
Falcons play inside too, and they're the second.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a correlation there. I wonder if it's due to reporting. I don't think it has anything to do with staffing or anything like that. And it could just be bad luck too. It could be GM, like maybe the Saints say, hey, we see a guy who's missed an entire college season, and we're more willing to gamble on a guy who's had injury risk before. And the Vikings are super conservative. They're looking at guys like, he's got this injury history. We're not interested in taking him. But it's an interesting article.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into AFC West.
AFC West, fun division.
So if you remember from last year, Chiefs were the number one overall seed at 12-4.
12-4.
Chargers also were 12-4. They lost the tiebreaker, so they actually ended up in the 5th seed as a wild card.
Yep.
And then, which they beat the Ravens, I believe, in the wild card game.
Yep.
And then the Broncos were 6-10. Raiders were 4-12. So that was last year.
So who you got this year? We'll break down our records for the AFC West.
So AFC West, I got the Chiefs winning that division. I got them at 13-3.
Nice.
Chargers, I have at 9-7. Broncos 5-11, and Raiders 4-12. What do you have?
Mine broke up pretty even. I've got the Chargers and the Chiefs at 11-5. And I love both these teams. When we started looking at the schedules, holy crap, these are extremely difficult schedules. Very difficult. So I've got them both at 11-5. This year I got them flipping, though. I got the Chargers winning the tiebreaker, and I think that's just the defense maturing and improving and being I think both offenses are very, very high level, and I think the Chargers defense put them over the hump on that. I got the Raiders at 6-10. That's not an insult to them. I think there's something starting to turn. Very excited to start watching Hard Knocks, which should premiere next week, HBO, an inside look into the Raiders training camp. That'll give us more insight into that, and that's cool for fantasy stuff too. And I've got the Broncos at 6-10. I don't think Joe Flacco is the answer. I don't know what John Elway is looking at when he's evaluating quarterbacks.
All right, so let's break it down. So let's start with the number one overall seed last year, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Chiefs.
So obviously Patrick Mahomes.
If this team is your fantasy team, you're in good. You could just literally take the Chiefs as your fantasy team, and you'd be in very good shape.
Yeah. So where do you got Mahomes going? What round is acceptable to take Mahomes? Would you say?
I would say if there's no other. I'll look at for Mahomes in round 4. If the draft is broken down, like the running backs and receivers that I want in round 4, I think will still be there available in 5, which doesn't happen a lot. But I think round 4 is fair to start looking at Mahomes. It's funny, guys, for 5,050 touchdowns, never repeat. Anyone who's had that big a season, they always have had regression. But no one's ever done it at 23 years old either. The team hasn't got worse. He's got Tyreek Hill not being suspended and coming back in. He's ready to rock. I think, man, I don't know if he can repeat, but I still think he's 5,040. I think the touchdown regression has to come a little bit, but
in the mock drafts that I've been doing, he's been going around pick 40. So kind of early 4th round.
I don't think that's bad. I think so. You're dealing with a lot mock drafts still. We're starting to get the average Joe guy come in. By the time that we're doing it, by the time we're actually drafting, he's gonna be a 2nd round pick. There's gonna just a lot of the pros who are drafting early know to wait to rounds 4 and 5. He'll move up. I don't think we'll be owning him.
Yeah, I also think even at 40, I think there's still plenty of other quarterbacks to go after where you're not going to lose as much value, and you might want to pick up running back, wide receiver, depending on what you need.
I agree, Andrew. If there's a running back or receiver that you want at 40 over him, I would take it. The only time I'd start to look at Mahomes around 40, and I still think 40, I'd say closer to 48, start to look at him there if you're like, oh crap, all the running backs and receivers I expected to be there are gone. I'll take the best quarterback and wait to the next round. Wait on quarterbacks.
Yeah. All right, Travis Kelce, everybody's saying
Stud,
best quarterback or best tight end.
Top tight end right now. Nothing's changed in the offense.
He's going first round most drafts.
I see early round 2 a lot. I'm
if you can get him early round 2, definitely.
I think it's a good value, yeah.
All right, Tyreek Hill, not getting any suspension. Where do you see him going?
We talked about this the other day, and I was saying late round 1's fine. I'm seeing more mid round 2. If I get a mid round 2, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, all right. How about running backs? Damian Williams worth picking up? Carlos Hyde?
Damian Williams is going anywhere between rounds 2 and 4. I mean, if he's the guy in this offense, you're just banking on, is he the guy? If I take Damian Williams, it's one situation where I'd probably either want to get Carlos Hyde or Darwin Thompson, because I don't. People really knock Carlos Hyde. I've always liked Carlos Hyde. Damian Williams has never been a premier back, even at where was he? Texas A&M. I think he played Texas A&M. I don't think he rushed for 1,000 yards at Texas A&M. So what's it say? Does it give you Oklahoma? I don't think he ever rushed for 1,000 yards at Oklahoma. So Andy Reid's never had a bad running back, and he usually goes bell cow. So it's a good value, but you got to believe in it.
All right, and then wide receiver, any value in Sammy Watkins or Demarcus Robinson?
Yeah, we never really see it come from Sammy.
So he's injured.
Yeah, he gets injured a lot, and then he just had. Unfortunately, with the Rams and the Chiefs being late additions, he's never really had time to catch on with the offense. I still like him. I want him as a bench receiver. I've been doing a lot of best ball drafts. I don't know if you guys know what best ball drafts is. Basically, you draft your entire roster, and it automatically puts in the players that played the best that week for you. I like him in best ball format because I think if healthy, he's going to have a lot of boom bust weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That's Fantasy Chiefs.
Let's go to the Chargers.
Sure.
So I had him 9-7. You had him, what, 10-6?
I had him 11-5.
Okay. So Phillip Rivers, the ageless wonder.
Ageless wonder, yeah. He's your consistent late draft quarterback. He's going to rush for 0. Which actually that's a little bit of an issue. He returns Hunter Henry, which is going to be a touchdown threat. He returns Mike Williams, who's getting better. Keenan Allen's always great there for him. So I think he's in that 30-plus touchdown range and over 4,000 yards. I think he's a very safe. Like if you want to take a risk, and you're going Carson Wentz, who's had some injuries, and you're going Kyler Murray, who we haven't seen play yet. I think if you pair him with one of your risk guys, you'll get a consistent guy. If your risk quarterback falls through, I like doing that. Or even Garoppolo, if you're taking quarterback with a couple of your last picks, you go Garoppolo and Rivers, or Lamar Jackson and Rivers. I think that's a fun one too. But yeah, he's consistent, so I think you can pair him with someone else who's a little riskier.
Okay. And then at running back, so you got Melvin Gordon holding out right now.
I don't see that getting resolved. They said they're $2 to $3 million apart. They don't have. They're playing in that 19,000 person stadium. They're not making a lot of money. I can't see them shelling out for running back. And I don't. We talked about it before. I think this holdout lasts. I'm not touching Melvin Gordon.
I think it's smart on Melvin Gordon's part.
I do too.
Off that injury,
I agree.
Get some money out of it. But where does that leave us with Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson?
Justin Jackson's the more interesting one right now because he played so well when Eckler got hurt. It's possible that we see Justin Jackson as the 1-2 down back and Eckler still playing his third down back role, with Eckler maybe still taking the 1 and 2. I think you draft both of them right now. I'm excited to get either of them. You can get Justin Jackson at a better value. You can get him very late. I'd be all over that if we don't hear more from Melvin Gordon moving forward.
Okay. And then Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin.
Keenan Allen takes a little bit of a touchdown hit this year because of Henry and Williams showing that he can do the touchdowns. So where he was like an easy back first-round pick last year, he's more of a back second round, we see him early third round. But I believe in him. He seems to get hurt at the worst times too. Mike Williams is a PPR negative for him for PPR, not going to get a lot of catches, but he seems to have this touchdown thing down.
He's getting better, I think.
But does Hunter Henry take away any from his touchdown?
I don't know. I think Mike Williams can have a big year
because we've never seen Hunter Henry. We just know he's great, but he's just had some bad luck. He was the rookie and they tore the ACL.
Where did Antonio Gates go?
He retired.
He retired?
Oh, dude, he's 40. Antonio Gates.
He plays every year.
Well, he returned last year, like as a favor to the Chargers after Henry tore his ACL. When Henry tore he was supposed to teach Henry the job, and then Henry came and tore his ACL in like July last year.
He played 16 games.
I know. He came in last year when Henry got hurt. He was retired before that. Henry got hurt and he came out of retirement.
So you're saying I will not see Antonio Gates on a football field this year?
I don't think so, no. No.
Right.
I think you're more likely to see Rob Gronkowski than Antonio Gates.
All right. Let's go to the Denver Broncos.
Broncos.
I had him 5-11. You had him
6-10.
6-10. So they just went after one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, and they got Joe Flacco. And they also got Drew Lock there, so should be a good battle. But I'm assuming Joe Flacco is going to win that, at least to start the season.
And I think once you see them start the wheels to come off a little bit, you'll see Drew Lock come in. I don't love either quarterback.
Yeah, not drafting either.
No.
Okay. Running backs, I think, is where you get the most fantasy value on this team, right? So you got Phillip Lindsay, Devontae Booker, Royce Freeman. Obviously, Lindsay is going to be probably second-round player.
He's falling.
Really? Why is that?
So just intel out of Denver right now. So he's consistent 4th round, seeing him fall to the 5th round a little bit. Let's not forget that injury he had last year was really significant. The back of his hand touched his upper wrist. He's still, I don't think he's fully using his arm yet. And there's just been talk that Royce Freeman, who was drafted before Lindsay last year, was playing with a high sprain ankle last year. So I think you could see more of a 50-50 split from them. But that's not me knocking either one. I think if you can get Royce in round 9-10 right now, that's a better value than Lindsay in round 4 or 5. But Lindsay, when I'm getting that round 4 turn and I don't have a second running back yet, and he's like the last one there, he's one of those guys that I'm starting to think about. He's always proven everyone wrong otherwise. It's just I do expect Freeman to take a little bit more of the pie, and I'm told that his wrist injury was really, really severe, and I don't know what that means for him holding the football. I mean, I don't have any specific information, but the injury was worse than, it wasn't just a simple wrist fracture.
Okay, so you're nervous about taking him?
I'm not nervous. I'm just taking the other guys in the tier first.
Okay. Noah Fant, rookie out of Iowa.
Yeah, you could take a flyer on him in the last round if you want. The interesting thing is the only tight ends we've ever seen be successful as rookies are basically ones that play Joker like he will, or just move in the slot. And the only one I can think of is Evan Ingram. Is he Evan Ingram 2.0? Man, they're pretty similar. They really are. You know what? Just talking about it now, you might have sold him a little bit on me. I think I kind of see a little bit of Evan Ingram in him. And Evan Ingram produced as a rookie in an offense that wasn't that good, too.
They actually have some decent young tight ends.
Flacco loves tight ends, too.
He does. You could see him, Jake Butt out of Michigan, too.
I think Butt got hurt again already.
Did he really?
I hope not. I think I heard something that he had a little bit of a setback. That's unfortunate. He's been year after year with injury.
Third ACL injury, sidelines.
Oh, that's last year, Will. I think
3 days ago.
3 days ago.
Little
pothole. Let's hope that's nothing. Jake Butt's a great player who's never really gotten an opportunity. But yeah, okay. You just talked me a little bit into maybe taking a flyer on Noah Fant.
All right, and then Manny Sanders coming off the Achilles repair.
I never trust Achilles repairs. We really don't see people come back great of him. I saw him running on a treadmill the other day, and oh my God, he looked good.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about Achilles repairs with NBA, right? Kevin Durant, John Wall,
sure.
DeMarcus Cousins. And those are all guys that, can somewhat get away with it. If you're a speedy guy like Emmanuel Sanders.
It's about explosion, though. It's about your first step. Can you beat the guy off the ball?
Too risky for me.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm not drafting him. I mean, very late, but he's good.
Right.
I think the young guys are interesting. Apparently, Sutton has not looked good. Deshaun Hamilton's a little slow. Didn't they have another? Wasn't there a third young guy? I guess not. I think you can take a flyer on Sutton in the mid-rounds and hope that he turns into something.
Basically we're saying we got quarterbacks we don't like.
Yep. Running backs we do like.
To wide receivers we don't like. With
Correct.
a tight end that could be good.
Yeah.
And running backs that are.
We like the running backs, yeah.
All right.
Hand the ball off, Joe. Do what you're good at.
And then let's go to the Oakland Raiders. I have him at 4-12.
Yep. I had him at 6-10.
Okay. So Gruden, kind of second year to go at it of his 10-year contract.
Yep. $10 million a year, $100 million.
So their big news. So they got Antonio Brown.
It's big news. One of the greatest receivers of all time.
Derek Carr.
Yep.
So Tell me about Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, the wheels fell off last year. The year before, I mean, was it the year before or the year before? There was, but the year he broke his leg, he was a borderline MVP candidate.
He was.
So I don't think we can forget about Derek Carr here. I'm not drafting him in fantasy, but I definitely keep an eye on him if I'm streaming quarterbacks, in that he sort of lost his head when the offensive line fell apart, and he was just getting his butt kicked. I still think Derek Carr could turn around. I want to see it before I pay for it, but I don't know. I think Derek Carr could turn around. I would not be shocked if Derek Carr is top 7 fantasy quarterback. I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked. You add a receiver in Antonio Brown, and you see the offensive line tightening up. You get help with actually having a starting running back this year, as opposed to Marshawn Lynch at 100 years old and Doug Martin, who's not been good in a while. If I see it first, I could drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. The player we're excited about here is Josh Jacobs. I think he's a really underrated rookie. He didn't get a lot of tread on the tires at Alabama. If you talk to that Alabama team and you ask players why they lost, I've heard most of them say we just didn't get Josh Jacobs the ball enough. He can catch the ball. I've been burned by rookies early in the past, but he's going round 4 right now. He's one of those guys where, like, can I go Jacobs or Lindsey? I'd much rather take the risk with Jacobs right now. He's the only running back on the roster. What is it? Jalen Richard gonna come in and take snaps away? If he's healthy, he's got to get the workload, and he catches balls too.
Yeah, we like him. What about a guy, Hunter Renfrow, right? Rookie out of Clemson, little speedy guy. You think he could be
scrappy?
Yeah, he's kind of like a Cooper Kupp and like a
he's not
Wes Welker type guy.
Wes Welker's better than Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is a much better athlete than Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is the definition of scrappy. He's got small hands. He's not that fast. He's a little quick. He's just one of those. I think he was not highly recruited into Clemson, obviously. He just works hard and gets it done. I don't know if it's the right offense for him. I would have loved to see him in New England.
You know what they used to say about Adam Thielen?
What?
Same thing. High school coach told him he shouldn't play football.
He's still a much better athlete than Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow has an uphill battle from an athletic standpoint. I love him. He's going to play in the slot. He's smart. He gets the job done. So I think he can do it. Fantasy, we're not touching him.
No fantasy value, but I think he'll get some playing time.
Antonio's going early round 2. So early round 2 for me, it's just about the risk. I don't like receivers switching teams and me banking on them giving the same production. So he's fine. Could he finish as wide receiver 1? Absolutely. Just for me, round 2, I like something safer there.
All right. So we got, again, I got Chiefs winning that division, 13-3. You have Chargers, with the Chiefs probably getting your wild card.
Yeah.
At 11-5.
People might knock us for saying. Or knock me for saying 11-5. Look at the schedule, guys. It's definitely not a cakewalk.
Not a cakewalk. But they are. If they play anything like they did last year, they're still going to win most of those games.
Yeah. Both will be AFC championship caliber teams.
All right, great. So send us your questions. Could be PT related, could be sports related, could be fantasy related. We want to hear from you. Our email is willandmarkshso@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession Podcast. We have a Twitter going. So find us. We're out there. We're posting things on Facebook pretty regularly. Comment on the page. Let us know what you want to hear, and we'll put it on the podcast.
Any questions would be great. Okay, over and out.